Hi there. Thank you for choosing to be here tonight. I know that sometimes we just need a soft place where the mind can breathe again for a moment. And right now, you can let this space become your own safe corner. A place where you do not have to try. You do not have to be strong. And you do not have to hold yourself in any certain state. You can just let go a little. Slow down one beat and let your body understand that you are safe and surrounded by calm. Here you are, listened to. You are trusted, and you are allowed to rest. Before we go on, I want to ask you gently, tonight, where is your heart at? A little tired, feeling okay, or needing a bit more soothing? If you want, you can share it so I can understand you better. Now imagine you are standing in front of a very still lake in the early morning. A thin mist is drifting across the water, soft like a cool cloth resting on your forehead after a long day. The surface of the lake is flat and quiet, so quiet that you can almost hear your own breathing, turning into small ripples that fade slowly away. Nothing is in a hurry. The mist is breathing. The lake is resting. And you are also starting to soften and relax. From this still place, the first story begins to gently unfold. That night, when the wind was quiet and the lake was smooth, like a giant mirror resting between the hills, Grandpa Ellis asked me to follow him to the water's edge. The moon was high, soft and round, drifting across the lake like an empty little boat. He carried an old oil lamp, the one he always used when he told stories. Its small light shook a little in the breeze, but somehow made everything around us feel warm, familiar. We sat on the cool, damp ground by the lake. The sound of water touching the shore was gentle, like the breathing of someone in deep sleep. Grandpa Ellis didn't speak right away. He never did. He always let silence come first, as if silence was the one who opened the door for the story to begin. After a while, he set the lamp beside his feet and looked at the lake. The moon's reflection stretched into a thin, glowing line, reaching toward somewhere far away, a place I always imagined only someone old like him had ever been. "You know," he said softly, his voice slow and steady, like a breath. "The past is sometimes just a guest who visits at night." I looked at him without saying anything. He smiled, the smile I remembered so well, half storytelling, half listening to himself. "When a guest arrives, you open the door," he said. "When they leave, you let them go. Don't hold them. Don't push them away. That way your heart stays calm." He picked up a small stone and dropped it into the lake. Ripples spread out in perfect circles, then faded before I could count them. "Memories are the same," he said. "They come and go. What needs to settle will settle. You don't have to hold on to them." The lamp's light cast his shadow on the ground. It was long, thin, and trembling slightly when the breeze passed. On the lake, the moon's reflection trembled too. Everything seemed to breathe together: the lamp, the moon, the water, and the man sitting beside me. I asked him, but if a memory is beautiful, why not keep it? He chuckled gently, who said, "You can't remember." But remembering isn't the same as holding. And holding doesn't always bring joy. You see, when you keep a guest too long, they get tired, and so do you. He leaned a little closer to the water. If something is beautiful, let it stay beautiful. But don't lock the door because of it. I stayed quiet, not because I didn't understand, but because his words felt like a small stone dropping into my own chest, sending soft ripples through me. Grandpa Ellis dropped another stone. This time, the ripples grew wider, traveled farther, and still disappeared in just a few seconds. "See," he said, "the water doesn't try to hold the shape of what touches it. That's why it stays clear." He looked up at the moon. "Our heart is the same." A thin night breeze moved across the lake, cool like a thread of air. He leaned a little closer to the water. "If something is beautiful, let it stay beautiful. But don't lock the door because of it." I stayed quiet, not because I didn't understand, but because his words felt like a small stone dropping into my own chest, sending soft ripples through me. Grandpa Ellis dropped another stone. This time the ripples grew wider, traveled farther, and still disappeared in just a few seconds. "See," he said, "the water doesn't try to hold the shape of what touches it. That's why it stays clear." He looked up at the moon. "Our heart is the same." A thin night breeze moved across the lake, cool like a thread of air. Grandpa Ellis pulled his sweater closer to his neck, then adjusted the lamp so the flame stood steady again, like an old man who already knew how to stand through life's small shaking. "When I was young," he said, "I used to cling to everything, especially the things that had already passed." He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw both the warm fire from the lamp and the pale moon on the water. I thought if I held tight, I wouldn't forget. I was afraid that letting go meant losing something forever. He paused for a long moment. I didn't speak. I just listened to the lake, brushing the shore, soft and even. Until one night, he said, "I sat here by this same lake. The moon looked just like this." He let out a slow breath, as if he had been waiting for that question for a long time. "Then you let them knock," he said, "because the more you try not to hear, the louder the knocking becomes." He tilted his head toward the lake. "I used to try closing the door tight, but I learned something: keeping the door shut never made me calmer. It only made me tired from holding the lock all night." The oil lamp reflected on the water as a thin streak of light. Under the moon, it looked like a small path leading into the lake. "Pain is also a guest," he said. "It only visits for a while. It never comes to stay." A tiny sound broke the quiet, maybe a fish touching the surface, making the reflection tremble as if agreeing with him. "You know something interesting?" he asked, his voice brightening just a little. "No matter what form a memory arrives in, when it leaves, we're always lighter than when it came." I looked at the fading ripples where his hand had touched the water like the lake. I asked, Grandpa Ellis smiled. He didn't answer with words, but his slow nod was soft as the moon on the surface. He stood and took a few steps closer to the water, then looked back at me. The moon laid a gentle glow on his shoulders, making his old figure look unusually kind. "Do you know what I learned many years later?" he asked. "If we spend our whole life chasing the past, we miss what's right in front of us." He lifted the oil lamp so its warm light met the moon's cool reflection on the lake. One light was steady, the other trembling, shining together without covering each other. "The past is a guest," he said, "but the present is the one sitting beside you." I lowered my head slightly, letting his words settle in me. He sat beside me again and placed the lamp between us. Its small flame swayed gently, stretching and softening our shadows on the ground, as if breathing with the story. "Every memory," he continued, "whether beautiful or painful, carries a gift. Sometimes it's a lesson, sometimes just a small feeling, sometimes nothing at all. But no gift is meant to be kept forever." He nodded toward the shimmering water. "Look, the lake holds the shape of the moon for only a moment, but the moon is still there. What matters always stays, even when we stop holding on." A slow breeze moved across the surface, breaking the reflection into small pieces, then pulling them back together, like someone rearranging them into a new story. I wondered how many times I had forced a memory to stay exactly as it was because I feared it fading, forgetting that the fear was the thing fading me. As if hearing my thoughts, Grandpa Ellis said, "Some guests come to remind us of what has passed. Some come to show us we've changed, and some come so we can finally tell ourselves it's time to let go." He handed me a small stone. "Try it," he said. I tossed the stone into the lake, a soft plunk, then wide rings spreading farther than I expected. When they disappeared, the lake returned to stillness, calm, flat, untouched, as if nothing had happened at all. "What do you see?" he asked. I thought for a moment. It goes back to being itself. He smiled gently. "That's what memories do. They stir us for a moment, then move on, and we remain ourselves." He looked at the water one last time, then stood and brushed the dirt from his knees. "Whenever the moon is bright," he said, "I come here not to remember, but to remind myself. Guests come and go, none of them stay forever." We walked home together. Behind us, the moon still rested on the lake, whole, calm, and unbothered by any ripple that had ever faded before it. Master Rowan once said that people move through life carrying a backpack they don't even know they're wearing. From far away, it looks simple. Old fabric, worn straps, a zipper a little tired from time. But what makes it heavy isn't its age. It's what we stuff inside. "In that backpack," he said, "there are no objects. No clothes or tools. Instead, it's filled with invisible notes, things we've achieved praise, that once made us feel special, roles we reached, titles we thought, proved our worth, and all the ideas we believe will keep us from being left behind. Young people often pack notes saying, "Be better." Adults add notes saying, "Don't make mistakes." Those deep in their careers add whole stacks titled, "Be who they expect you to be." Little by little, the backpack grows. It gets heavier. But because it sits behind us, we never really see it. We only feel our body tiring, our steps slowing, and our mind losing its lightness. Master Rowan said, "The strange thing is this: the older those notes get, the harder they are to let go. Not because we need them, but because we're afraid that without them, we won't know who we are." He explained gently, "The ego is the backpack. Achievements are the notes. Every time you think you must be someone, you add another sheet." We grow up in a world that constantly asks us to prove our worth. School, work, family, social media, everywhere feels like a scoreboard. So instead of living, we start collecting praise, collecting images of a better version of ourselves, collecting labels that make us look valuable. One note is fine. 2 notes are still light. But hundreds, thousands, and the backpack begins to change shape. Some people spend their whole life walking bent over by what they call pride. Others fear that if they drop even one note, the world will see them differently. Some hold on to a success from 10 years ago, terrified that without it, they won't matter anymore. But then every note starts to age. The ink fades. The edges tear. The message no longer fits who we are. And that's when the backpack becomes even heavier. Master Rowan said the weight isn't real. It's the weight of clinging, of tying our worth to things that already passed, of thinking if I'm not this note anymore, I am nothing. He placed his hand over his chest and said, "Your worth isn't in the paper. It's in the hand holding the backpack." He wasn't telling anyone to abandon goals or call achievements meaningless. He was simply inviting a softer view. You can set the backpack down anytime, and you are still you. When you release an old expectation, you don't lose your value. When you let go of a title that no longer fits, you don't disappear. When you stop proving yourself, you don't become less. You become free. the backpack doesn't vanish. It just stops forcing you to bend. Master Rowan said when your backpack feels lighter, it doesn't mean you lost anything. It means you return to your own strength. He told stories of people who carried their backpacks for decades without ever looking inside, and others who opened it once and realized they had lived for years protecting an image they no longer needed. Sometimes he smiled gently and said, "The beautiful thing is no one forces you to carry it. You carry it yourself. And you have the right to put it down." Some people let go of one note. Some let go of a whole stack. Some remove just one old sentence, and suddenly their breath becomes wider. When the ego softens, the heart brightens on its own. There's no need to try to be aware. You simply stop tightening yourself. Master Rowan once ended with a simple line, a line that opened an entire sky. Between a backpack full of notes and a heart that carries nothing, which one lets you walk lighter? And he said the answer doesn't need to be spoken. It only needs to be felt quietly. That morning, the rain fell harder than usual. It didn't just drop straight onto the roofs. The wind spun, it pushed it sideways, sent it slicing through the narrow paths of the village. Each raindrop hit the ground with tiny, sharp pops, building into a thick, unbroken sound like a crowded drumbeat. Sister Arya stepped out of the temple gate with a tilted umbrella. It wasn't large enough to shield her, so the shoulder of her brown robe had already darkened with water. But she didn't look bothered. She walked slowly, as if she was listening for something hidden beneath the loud rain. The path to the morning market was muddier than usual. Each step sank lightly into the thin layer of wet earth, rising again with a soft, sticky sound. From a distance, the market's noise felt different from sunny days, softer mixed with the clatter of baskets, the faint calls between vendors, and the heavy rain hitting the tarps overhead. Arya hadn't come to buy anything. She came to visit a woman she often spoke with each morning. But as soon as she reached the edge of the market, she saw the woman crouched behind her stall, both hands pressed to her chest, breathing in short, sharp bursts. Rain splashed across her face, but she didn't try to wipe it away. Her eyes were red and her lips trembled as if something inside her had cracked past what she could hold. Arya hurried over and tilted the umbrella to cover her. "What happened?" she asked gently, her voice soft but steady. The woman didn't answer at first. She covered her mouth, trying to swallow her sobs. Finally, she forced out a few broken words. "My husband left again. The money for the goods, gone. I don't know what to do anymore." The heavy rain seemed to press on every syllable, stretching her pain even further. People hurried through the market, each hiding from their own storm, no one stopping to notice. Arya understood this was real pain, not the kind that disappears with quick comfort. She placed a warm hand on the woman's shoulder and felt the trembling through her thin clothes. "It's okay," Arya whispered. "Just breathe with me first." But the woman shook her head. "I can't breathe. It feels like everything is crushing my chest." Arya adjusted the umbrella so it covered them both a little more. Wind pushed the rain sideways, soaking them anyway. The umbrella bent under the force, but Arya kept it steady. "Look," she said softly, glancing up at the gray sky. "The storm out here is strong, but the storm inside you doesn't have to match it." The woman looked at her, exhausted but still listening. "This rain is heavy," Arya continued, "but you don't have to fight it. You can just stand under it until it passes." The woman broke down crying, not the sound of someone collapsing, but the sound of someone finally breathing after holding everything inside for too long. The umbrella still tilted rain kept hitting their clothes. The market buzzed under the downpour, and yet in the middle of all that noise, something in the woman's eyes began to soften. The rain kept pouring thick enough to blur the whole market. Vendor calls were swallowed by the sound, leaving only scattered faint bits of conversation. Tarps shook hard under the wind, and water spilled from their edges in fast streams. Arya held the umbrella toward the woman, even though half of her own shoulder was soaked. A few people glanced over but didn't stop. Everyone was busy running from their own rain. "You can let yourself shake," Arya murmured. "If it hurts, let it hurt. You don't have to hide it." The woman's breath hitched again, as if those words touched a place she had held shut for far too long. Then she whispered through the rain and the cold air, "I just don't understand why bad things keep finding me." Arya stayed quiet for a moment, not to avoid the woman's pain, but so she wouldn't push her into more thinking than she could handle. Then she answered softly, "What comes, comes. But the suffering begins when we try to push it away." The woman looked up, rain sliding off the edge of the umbrella in long lines beside both their faces. "If I don't fight it, then what am I supposed to do?" Arya glanced down at the ground, where the rain spun into small pools around the stall. "Look," she said, "the rain hits the earth with all its force. But the earth doesn't try to fight it. It just receives it and lets the water flow wherever it needs to go." The woman stayed silent, watching the puddles spread again with each shift of the wind. "Our mind is the same," Arya continued. "If we build walls inside to block the storm, we only use more strength. But if we let the feeling pass through, it finds its own way out." A strong gust hit, flipping the umbrella slightly. Arya steadied it with a calm movement, no frustration, no rush. The woman noticed and asked, "Aren't you tired?" Arya's voice stayed even. "We get tired when we try to keep the umbrella perfectly straight in a storm. But when we accept that it will lean, everything becomes easier." The woman's shoulders lowered, as if that one sentence had widened her breath. "I'm scared things will get worse," she whispered. "You're scared?" Arya nodded. "That's true. But what hurts you isn't the rain. It's believing you have to stand in it alone." Time passed. The woman's breathing slowly steadied. The panic on her face softened bit by bit like water, calming even while the sky kept pouring. In the thick sound of the market, Arya recognized something familiar. Sometimes the storm outside can roar, but the storm inside can start to dissolve from a single breath. The rain grew heavier, as if the sky had dropped closer to the earth. The market continued, not lively, but steady, the kind of life that refuses to pause just because the weather is harsh. The woman inhaled deeply, calmer now. "I don't know where to start getting back up," she said, her voice small but steadier. Arya tilted the umbrella even more toward her start. "Where you are," she said. "You don't need to be strong all at once. You just need to stop fighting the rain." The woman looked at her own hands, still trembling a little, but her shoulders no longer locked with fear. "I still feel heavy." Arya nodded, familiar with this truth. Heavy is normal. When the storm outside is loud, the one inside will shake too. But shaking doesn't mean you're falling. A drop of water fell from the umbrella between them, bounced on the ground, and disappeared into the wet earth. Arya watched it for a moment, then said, "See, the rain hits the ground and dissolves. Pain does the same. It's real, but it doesn't stay forever." The woman stayed quiet, as if testing the idea inside herself. Another gust pushed both of them sideways. The umbrella bent again, but this time the woman reached up and held it, with Arya steadying it together. Rain still hit them, but that small gesture made Arya smile softly. "You just did the most important thing," Arya said. "What is that?" "You didn't hide from it." The woman looked at the umbrella, then at the hand that held it. Arya continued, "You can't stop the rain, but you just chose not to let the storm inside you grow stronger than the one outside." A tiny change appeared in the woman's face. Not a smile, not relief, but a quiet softening, like a body finally believing it's safe enough to breathe again. The market sounds warmed slightly. Someone called to a friend at a nearby stall. A man laughed loudly after slipping in the mud. Small things, not enough to stop the rain, but enough to make it feel less cold. Arya brought the umbrella closer, making a small shelter for both of them. "You can stand here as long as you need," she said. "When you're ready, we'll walk." The woman took a long breath this time, full, not fractured. "Thank you. You have no idea how much you helped me." Arya shook her head gently. "I only held the umbrella. The rest you did yourself." A warm silence passed between them through the sound of rain. Then the woman spoke. "I guess the storm outside is real, but the storm inside, I was the one holding it tight." Arya smiled, "And you just let it loosen?" The rain didn't stop, but in the small space beneath the tilted umbrella, someone had just found their breath again. Lydia, the oldest lantern maker in the village, always opened her shop slowly in the morning. Not because she was old or tired, but because she liked letting the first light of the day touch her. A gentle greeting she never rushed past. Inside her shop, lanterns hung in neat rows. They came in many colors, but none were too bright. They all shared one thing. When light passed through their thin paper, it didn't blaze across the room. It softened it, warm, gentle, easy to breathe in. Lydia would say the most beautiful light is the light that doesn't try. When customers asked why her lanterns were so simple, she only smiled. If you make things too complicated, the light gets covered. She worked slowly, cutting paper with the rhythm of her breath, gluing edges by feel rather than perfect measurements, tying bamboo frames with calm hands. People often joked that she made lanterns the way someone meditates, though she never called it meditation. One day a little boy asked her, "How is the light inside your lanterns? So pretty. Do you keep it in there?" Lydia placed her hand gently on his head. "No one can keep light," she said. "But when you create enough space, the light finds its way." The boy didn't understand, but he loved the answer so much that he told everyone. After that, many people visited Lydia's shop not to buy lanterns, but to watch her work. To watch her lay paper gently over bamboo, then blow softly so the glue would dry. In that breath, everything seemed to slow down. Lydia often told curious visitors, everyone tries to hold on to something, an achievement, a feeling, a person. But the thing people want to hold the most is the one thing they can't, the light inside themselves. She lifted a lantern and turned it toward the sun outside the doorway. "This light doesn't belong to the lantern," she said, "but the lantern gives it a place to rest." She set the lantern down and smiled. "It's just like our breathing. No breath stays long, but each breath makes us shine for a moment." Someone once asked her, "So, what gives you peace?" Lydia pointed to the simple lanterns, then placed her hand over her heart. "It's not because I have much. It's because I don't need to hold on to anything." When the mind stops gripping, light comes on its own. In the afternoon, when Lydia lit the lanterns and their glow spilled softly onto the street, her face always looked peaceful, like someone who had set down a heavy weight she realized she never needed to carry. That afternoon, Aunt May was sitting on her front porch with a warm cup of tea resting in her hands. The steam curled upward in a thin line, twisting once before melting into the air like a long breath finally released. A soft breeze passed under the porch roof, carrying the smell of fresh leaves and the distant sounds of the street, not loud, just enough to remind her that life was moving somewhere out there. A few swallows landed on the clothesline, cleaning their feathers and making tiny chirps that sounded like little taps on glass. Aunt May stayed still, holding her tea eyes on the road without really following anything. She wasn't trying to think, and she wasn't trying not to think. She just let things come and go, the way wind touches a shoulder and slips away. Noah, the boy from next door, ran over with dust still on his shoes. "Aunt May, I can't focus," he sighed, dropping onto the porch step. "School is noisy, home is noisy, my head, it feels full of sounds that just won't stop." Aunt May looked at him, not rushing to ask questions. She held her tea closer to him, signaling for him to breathe it in. Noah inhaled the warm steam, slowing him down for a second, and he exhaled more quietly than when he arrived. I thought I needed things to be quiet so I could think, Noah said, chin resting in his hands. But everything is loud everywhere. How can I be calm like that? Aunt May smiled, a soft, tilted smile, like she was hearing something familiar and dear. You know, she said, it's not that a place has to be quiet for your mind to be quiet. When your mind is quiet, any place can feel enough. Noah frowned, but how can my mind be quiet when everything around me is noisy? Aunt May stood up, grabbed another cup of tea, and sat beside him. She placed the new cup in front of Noah, letting the warm air create a small pocket of comfort between them. Do you hear the swallows? She asked. Yes, Noah said, but I hear the cars too. Good. Now try listening to both. Noah looked confused, but he tried. The little chirps of the swallows and the distant rumble of cars on the big road. Slowly he noticed something surprising. The sounds weren't fighting. They were just both there. Aunt May spoke softly, the noise. Think of it like background music. You don't need to turn it off. You just don't let it push into your breath. Noah opened his eyes. He didn't fully understand, but the tightness in his gaze had loosened. You think things have to be silent before you can feel calm, she said. But sometimes, the harder you chase silence, the louder you become inside. A breeze brushed the porch, making the leaves above them tap against each other. The tea in Aunt May's hands gave off a soft, warm scent. The swallows chirped, the cars hummed, and for the first time that day, Noah felt his mind loosen. He sat quietly for a while, as if testing this new feeling, this sense that the noise was still there, but no longer tangled around his thoughts. He looked at Aunt May's teacup and whispered, How come you're always so calm? Everywhere, people are rushing, being loud, and you're just not pulled into it. Aunt May smiled and brushed her hand along the wooden porch step. I'm not calmer than anyone else. I just don't wait for the world to be quiet before I am. Noah went silent again, but the noise still bothers me. She nodded. That's because you're hearing the noise like it's a threat, like it's taking something from you. But the noise doesn't even know you exist. It's just doing what noise does. What should I do then? Aunt May handed him her warm cup of tea, letting him hold it. Do you feel the warmth? Yes, it's nice, Noah said, wrapping both hands around it, like holding a small flame. Now, she said, listen to the swallows while feeling the warmth. Noah tried. He heard the tiny chirps. He felt the warmth in his palms, and his next breath came out longer, easier. Aunt May said quietly, see, when you choose one small thing to rest your attention on, just one, the noise doesn't disappear. It just steps back like it's behind a thin wall. Noah opened his eyes brighter now, so it's not the noise that goes away, it's just that I stop being dragged by it. Exactly, she said, as kind as the tea she always drank in the afternoon. Noise only exhausts us when we hold on to it. A soft breeze came through again, lifting the swallows into the air. They circled once, then landed on the porch roof. Their wings and the distant cars blended into something simple, not exactly beautiful, but no longer in conflict. Aunt May watched the birds settle, then said softly, "Some people look for peace by running from the noise. Others find it by realizing the noise was never the enemy." Noah held the tea on his knees and let out a long breath, the kind that takes something heavy with it. "I think I always treated noise like something I had to control, but now I see I just don't need to fight it." Aunt May nodded, her eyes warm like late afternoon sunlight. "And when you stop fighting, you begin to notice the rest of life. Not just the noise, but the gentle things behind it." A quiet pause fell between them, not because the world was silent, but because their minds were starting to soften at the same time. Evening crept in, brushing the porch with a soft golden layer. Noah was turning the teacup in his hands when at the end of the street, Master Solon appeared, simple robe, steady steps, moving as if he walked through breaths rather than across the ground. He approached the porch, a breeze lifted the edge of his robe. The swallows noticed him and chirped, then flew up to the beams as if greeting an old friend. No one knew why the birds always calmed when he arrived, only that the air around him seemed to loosen. Master Solon looked at Noah, then at Aunt May. "It's peaceful this evening," he said, voice low and warm. Noah laughed, "But it's not peaceful. Actually, there are cars everywhere. It's just, I don't hear them as loudly anymore." Master Solon nodded and sat beside them. "Then you're starting to listen with your heart." Noah tilted his head. "Listen with my heart. What does that mean?" Instead of answering Master, Solon poured more tea into Noah's cup. Fresh steam rose in a soft swirl. "Try listening again," he said. Noah closed his eyes, the swallows, the wind brushing the porch, cars humming on the main road, the warmth of the tea and footsteps far off toward the market. Everything was there, but nothing was overwhelming. Aunt May said the noise is like background music. You don't have to turn it off. Just don't let it pull you. "Yes," Master Solon said, "and there's something more. Noise is part of life. When you stop trying to push it away, you'll notice there's always a small space for quiet inside it." Noah opened his eyes slightly, a small space. Master Solon nodded, "Not out there in here." He gently placed a hand on Noah's chest. "Among all the sounds of the world, there is always a tiny still point inside you. The more you chase perfect silence, the further that point hides. But when you sit with the sounds that already exist, that point opens on its own." A soft breeze twisted a few leaves before dropping them near their feet. The swallows chirped and tilted their heads as if listening too. "I used to think stillness meant no sound," Noah said. "No," Solon replied. "Stillness is when sound exists and your mind doesn't run after it." Noah looked toward the busy road. The noise was still there, steady, unchanged. But for the first time, it didn't feel like a battle. "So I can be calm even when life isn't calm?" he asked. Master Solon smiled. "Not when life isn't calm, but in the middle of life not being calm." Aunt May let out a soft laugh, and the wind carried it away like the last piece of sunlight of the day. Uncle Reed sat beside the shallow stream where smooth stones rested quietly under the soft afternoon light. He picked up a gray stone, small but heavy enough for the hand to feel its weight. "You know," he said gently, "self-blame is like holding a stone like this." He placed the stone into the other person's palm. Even though it was light, the hand dipped just a little, only a little, but enough to know if you held it long, your arm would tire. "Self-blame is the same," he said. "It doesn't feel heavy right away, but it clings to you day after day, hour after hour, until you don't realize you've bent under it." He stood and walked to the edge of the stream. The water moved softly, unhurried, quiet, always ready to carry whatever was placed in it. "Forgiving isn't forgetting," Uncle Reed continued, "and it's not pretending something didn't hurt. Forgiving is simply putting the stone down." He knelt and let the stone slide from his hand into the water. No loud splash. No dramatic moment. Just a soft click. Then the stone sank and settled among the others. "Do you see?" he asked. The water didn't change. The flow didn't grow stronger or weaker. There was no mark left to show a stone had ever been dropped there. "We're the ones who change," Uncle Reed said, sitting back on the bank. "The moment we let go, our hand becomes light." He looked at his palm, empty, warm, no longer pulled downward by the old weight. "That's why we forgive," he said, "not to make someone else lighter, but to let ourselves be light." He pointed toward the steady stream. "The water doesn't ask why you're letting go. It doesn't need a reason. It simply receives and keeps moving." A small breeze passed, making the surface quiver like a small nod. "In self-blame," Uncle Reed said, "we'll tell you to hold the stone. That you aren't good enough to drop it. That you must carry more to prove something." He shook his head, eyes kind but clear. "You don't have to prove anything. A stone is heavy because you hold it, and it becomes light because you set it down." He stood and brushed the dirt from his knee. "Forgiving is a simple act, but it's the act that saves you." Beside the stream, the stones lay quietly, just like the things we've let go, no longer pulling us down. Let your body rest for a moment. We're going to move through each area slowly, gently. Start with your breath. Just let it soften. No need to make it deep. No need to make it right. Breathing in and breathing out like a light breeze moving over soft grass. Now let your forehead loosen a little. Your eyes soft like they're about to close. Your jaw easy not holding anything. Move down to your shoulders. If they're tight, imagine a small breeze passing through, carrying away anything you don't need to hold anymore. Down your arms, your wrists, your fingers. Every exhale lets you soften a little more. To your chest. Let the breath move through here like a small wind drifting by. Not pushing, not pulling, just flowing. Down to your belly. The place where every feeling of the day once passed through. Now there's only quiet and a gentle breeze. Continue to your hips, your thighs, your knees. Soft, soft, softer still. And finally down to your feet. Feel a warm breeze touching the soles of your feet, drawing your whole body into a calm, quiet, easy softness. You are resting now completely. Now, as your body begins to soften, you can imagine a gentle moonlight slowly settling onto the porch where you're sitting. Not a bright light, but a soft one, round, calm, almost as if it understands how tired you've been today. It drifts down slowly, like a warm hand resting on your shoulder. You don't need to do anything. Just let that moonlight cover you little by little, as if it's whispering, it's okay, you've done enough. Your breath becomes deeper without trying. Your body wrapped in something soft, not heavy, not cold. If anything from today still lingers inside you, let the moonlight touch it. Not to erase it, just to soothe it. The way a gentle hand brushes the hair of someone who needs comfort. Now feel your chest grow lighter, your shoulders dropping a little, and your mind finding a place to rest. You are safe here. You are being held by this quiet space, and you don't have to try anymore. It's just you and the moon falling softly onto the porch, calm, warm, and enough to let you sink into this small, quiet peace. Now let your awareness grow light, like a thin ribbon of smoke drifting into the wide night sky ahead of you. The distant stars shimmer tiny lights, guiding you deeper into an endless quiet. No sound left to follow. No thought left to hold. just you growing smaller, and the sky growing wider. Everything softens. Everything fades, blending together like starlight touching the dark. You are drifting gently far and deeply at peace. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for giving your mind a soft place to rest. Now, just let sleep come in its own way. Slow, gentle calm, like the last breath of the day. And if you want to keep finding these quiet nights together, you can follow the Sleepy Zen channel so we can meet again in moments just like this. Sleep well. Sleep well.